Hey guys, this is a video that's going to cover some of the circadian sort of time slots in the day, because there are certain parts of the day when light frequencies are at a certain level, other times when they sort of change, and a lot of people sort of are not sure where exactly they fall and stuff like that. So this is just a video to sort of cover those sort of aspects. So let me just share the screen. Where are we? There it is. Always hard to get these things. Okay, so this is the sort of cycle, biological clock. So that's your sort of main clock, which has to do with the different parts of the day and the different sort of light frequencies. So as you can see, between 9 o'clock and about 3:30, that's when you've got the most blue light. So that's when you've got those short wavelengths. And that's also when the sky is blue, because what happens is those short wavelengths sort of when they hit the air molecules in the atmosphere, they sort of scatter and they create that blue hue sort of look in the atmosphere. So, but also they have a high vibration. They vibrate far more. There's a because of that shorter sort of wavelength. They have a even on the molecules, but even in our eyes, when they hit our eyes, they also cause a bit of vibration. So if you have too much of that all day from screens and whatever else, that's what Jack Kruse talks about. You know, where you lose you lose some of your DHA. It's this sort of vibration. It's sort of, if it's continuous for many hours, looking at blue screens and all that, you're going to have excessive amounts, and you will have some level of excessive, what are called toxic levels of blue light. People use that sort of analogy for it, but it means that you're actually exposed beyond the normal physiological range that you would be in a 24-hour cycle. So that means you're going to be depleting more DHA as a consequence in the eyes and in the body in general to some extent. Probably more in that's another reason why we get more eye strain, headaches. So headaches, eye strain, things like that. Most headaches usually are, will come from your gallbladder, or, from some just general stress or things like that. But there is also, if you're feeling sort of fatigued from too many hours looking at a blue screen, that's going to have ramifications on your sort of stress levels or cortisol levels that are going to be slightly higher due to blue light. And that is that excitation, or that excitatory sort of effect, affects your brain chemistry as well. So it tends to. There is good research showing that GABA is suppressed, and when GABA is suppressed by blue light, by excessive blue light, then also you're going to have a situation where your brain is going to be in a more excitatory state. So that's not a good thing to be, for multiple hours of the day. And unfortunately, many people looking at screens for far too many hours, especially young people. And they're not wearing these sort of like those blue blocking glasses. Or these ones, which are for later evening. I'll put these ones back on. These ones, because it's still daytime, these ones are 70% blocking. So you're still getting some level of blue light, which you want through the day. That's normal. So it has benefits, for that sort of, part of your circadian rhythms. As you can see, 9 o'clock, highest testosterone secretion. That's exactly when the blue light is at the beginning point of its maximum. So you do need blue light as part of that circadian sort of cycle to signal to the body to release higher levels of testosterone. So higher alertness at 10 o'clock. So you need that. So you're going out for a hunt. You need to be alert. Keep an eye on those cats. Wow. You don't want them basically cornering you and ripping a few threads out of you. So best coordination tends to be around about 2:30. So at around about 3:30, that's the fastest reaction time. These are rough. These are measured on usually younger people. So obviously with age and with the mounting health issues that Westerners in particular succumb to, those things can vary as well. So 5 o'clock, greatest cardiovascular efficiency and muscle strength. That's why it's a good idea to pretty much, you're going to get far more benefits from weightlifting in the afternoon, between 4 and 4:30 and 5:30 is usually when a lot of people sort of traditionally have aimed at that time sort of slot, bodybuilders. So 6 o'clock, 6:30, sorry, the highest blood pressure. So that wouldn't be an ideal time to basically take sort of a resting heart, a measurement of your resting sort of blood pressure. That wouldn't be a good idea at all. Highest body temperature is at 7 o'clock in the evening. Then your melatonin starts secreting at about 9 o'clock. I, at that time, stop all my computer screen time at that time, and I'll just go and watch TV. And I have TV, and I'll have the blue blocking glasses, but at the same time, I have a projector. I don't have a regular TV. I do have a regular TV back here, but I don't use it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, whether I'm going to flog it off or just put it here just to have it in my work area. But, I don't really. So we'll see. I've had a few ideas whether to move it in the lounge and pin it against the wall and have it for daytime. Haven't decided what I'm going to do with it yet. But I have a projector at night. So the amount of blue light exposure is very minimal, and I have a red light in the lounge. So even though I may watch for another hour to 10:30 or 11 sometimes before I hit to bed, it's not. I'm going to be watching minimal stuff through the day, maybe a late movie or stuff like that occasionally. So bowel movement suppressed at about 10:30. That sort of makes sense as you're getting ready for bed after that. Deep sleep around about 2 o'clock. And lowest body temperature is about 4:30 in the morning. So there you go. And at 6:45, you get the sharpest rise in blood pressure. Obviously, you get things going in the body. Again, you wouldn't take a measurement at about 7 o'clock. So if you had an appointment at 7 o'clock and you took your blood pressure, it would be sky high in comparison to any other hour. This is the problem with people taking measurements at inappropriate time slots, especially when they don't take into consideration circadian rhythms. 7:30, melatonin secretion stops completely and utterly. And we're talking about here from the pituitary gland. We're not talking about in the mitochondria. Mitochondria, you're getting it all day long, small amounts of melatonin. But there they do reparative work inside the mitochondria, and the mitochondria produce it themselves. So this is completely different. But as far as melatonin signaling, that's when it actually stops being released, secreted. Now, 8:30, bowel movements likely. Yeah, varies for people, but I can attest that it usually is about that time. So, and then back to the highest, 9 o'clock, when your blue light or the short wavelengths that are coming through are going to be sort of the highest in that regard. And that's when you want also your lighting to be at that level, which is fine. But you want it to be at the natural sort of levels that you would find in a naturalistic environment as much as possible. Now let me just minimize that. And we go to the blue full spectrum light. Now I'll put those links. This company's actually got cheaper as well, and it's the same sort of thing. Very similar lights. It's just a different company. I don't know what the quality. These are the ones that I've got. These are cheaper, but I do not know what the quality is. I'll provide the links. People can decide for themselves. I don't do any recommendations in that regard whatsoever. And so these are sort of the full spectrum day mode, the low blue light mixed mode, and the no blue light night mode. So that's the sort of, let's just increase the size. So that's the frequencies you're going to get, which are very similar to the frequencies you get in a naturalistic environment. So it's not exactly, but it's close. See the light there, the line there. That's the sort of line of the sort of regular day cycle, and they sort of try and mimic as close to it as possible in the full spectrum mode. So in terms of the different frequencies, they're fairly close, where other incandescent and all the other sort of lighting can vary quite a bit what you get in a naturalistic environment. So they're trying to mimic as close as possible. It's really hard to do it exactly. This is why we recommend usually people go out early in the morning and late in the afternoon, dusk and dawn, in order to get that signalling, so the body knows what time it is. Ooh, it's just the crack of dawn, or ooh, so you get that sort of the right signalling. And you should go outdoors. I usually go outdoors, even when I'm working from home or I'm working in the office. Because I usually walk to work in the morning, so I'm out. I'm getting natural light. The same thing in midday. I always go for a walk, which is at that high intensity blue light. The short wavelengths are much higher at that stage, at that time slot. Sorry, and I'll get that exposure, the signaling for my own internal clocks. And then in the afternoon tea, I'll pop out as well for a short amount of time. I usually walk up and down the stairs at the same time, and I'll pop out and then come back in just to provide me that signaling. I don't do it every time. I have to be completely honest. I don't. Sometimes I forget. We are humans after all. We're not perfect, but the more we do it, the more we're going to see benefits in the long run. So when you're looking at these time slots, so when you're looking at low blue light mixed mode, so this is the full spectrum when you've got the highest amount of blue light. This is the mixed, where there's a bit more of the red spectrum and less of the blue and green. And in the evenings, you basically have practically no blue and very little green. And so coming back to this, So the full mode would be between 9 and 3:30. That's when your full mode would be. And from when the sun rises, or when you get the first break, that's when you'll have that mixed mode between that and 9 o'clock. And between 3:30 and when it starts, the light starts diminishing and you get that sort of in between period, that's when you shift to the night mode. So it depends on, obviously the different parts of the year and the different latitudes that will vary. So you can actually check when the sun rises and when the sun goes down. You can check on most government sites, the weather sites that give you that information. So you can get that and you can actually adjust your lighting for those. So that period, and obviously, if you've got daylight savings, which is an hour ahead, it's not going to be 3:30, it's going to be 4:30 in that sense, that point of transition. And it's not going to be sort of, 9 o'clock. It's going to be 10 o'clock in the summer in places where they're using daylight savings. So a bit of common sense is also required to make those adjustments. In places where there's no daylight savings, this is closer to the sort of type of settings you would use for your lighting within your home. So that's a sort of adjustments you sort of need to make to synchronize your internal clocks, so your internal clocks with your lighting. So if you do go for that sort of lighting, that's the sort of way you want to go. If you can actually have natural lighting, so coming in from, like in the daytime, I usually pull the curtain aside and just work, and but to a level where I'm getting natural light coming in, but without getting glare, so to speak, because obviously blue light is because of the short wavelength, causes more glare, reduces sharpness, reduces focus, and things like that. That's why when you go out without any sunnies on, or sunglasses for the North American crowd, or the others, we sort of use this sort of lingo as Aussies. So when you're out there without any sunnies on, then you're obviously going to notice the glare and the lack of focus and stuff like that. That's what happens when in that middle of the day, when you get the highest amount of blue light coming through. That's the effect. Now, you can imagine having that effect because all day long looking at screens. That's going to be tiring. Just because the screens are designed to take out some of those glare, some of those wavelengths of blue light, that don't cause that, because obviously people wouldn't buy computer screens with that sort of effect. You're still getting these short wavelengths, which are creating far more vibration, and having that excitatory effect in the eyes, which obviously is lowering DHA. So as I said, in ancestral times or in a tribal society or whatever, the level of seafood requirement, or DHA, omega-3s, is very low. But in a modern civilization style environment where there's a lot of unnatural light, unnatural blue light sources in the environment, obviously you're going to have far more depletion of that, let alone all the other toxins and stuff like that are increasing stress on the body, oxidative stress and many other things. So there's a good reason to try and improve your light hygiene. So when we're talking about lowering in any way possible blue light exposure in specific times of the day, outside the 9 to 3:30, but at the same time you want to try and minimise the excessive amount that comes from screens, because from screens it's much higher, even though you don't get the glare in it like that, of the blue light frequencies that are used in the LED screens. It's much higher, and that's another reason why we wear these sort of glasses that reduce it by 70%, to reduce the strain and to reduce the fatigue, the eye fatigue and stuff like that. So one, you can be more productive and have less fatigue and less tiredness, so you can function for longer when using screen time, so to speak. But at the same time, you're providing a certain level of protection as well for your eyes, which is important. And you're wearing sometimes the other ones later on when once you pop beyond usually about 4:30 is when probably an hour after that, when I start wearing these ones, I shift. Sometimes a bit later because I forget. Yes, I am getting older. Yeah. Yeah, it's not too far away. 58 in September. Friggin' hell. So this old boy needs all the help he can get. So that's pretty much it in regards to that. There are other things that we can do, obviously, to improve our sort of environmental health, and they cover things like earthing, getting earthing mats and stuff like that, getting into, bushwalking, getting into natural environments, doing some exercise to lower your stress levels. And also, when you think less about things, and this is really important because we sometimes sit around thinking about many things, or in modern psychology, let's talk about your problem. Nah, if you want to fix a problem, you got to sit down, write it down, and work out a program how to resolve it. That's how you fix a problem. Talking about it continuously just stresses you more, depresses you more, and all that. That's what the literature is actually really starting to show. So this whole bullshit of modern psychology is just bullshit. I don't need somebody to talk about my problems continuously, unless I want to make sure that I'm constantly feeding them with that sort of stuff for the service, so to speak. If I need to do that, I can stay at home and scream at something, to a wall, get it off my chest, and then say to myself, well, get over it, write it down, work out a plan, and move on. And a good way of actually de-stressing is actually going out for a walk and stuff like that. There's no value in arguing with a brick wall or with people that are like brick walls. So just keep that in mind, because you get nowhere with that. But these are the sort of we need to focus on in trying to make our bodies physiologically work better. The diet is fundamental, but light and lifestyle do have a role as well. You just can't sit around in a cave like Plato did. Yes, eventually you'll go for the poison. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. See yous.